Welcome to the Summit Series podcast by Elevation Capital, where we talk to India's top business minds on their journeys and the lessons they've learned. Our guest today is Vedang Patel, who's the founder and CEO of the Sold Store. Sold Store is India's largest fashion merchandise destination and a casual wear brand. The company was founded in 2013 and today sells apparel and other products with a truly omni-channel presence spanning its own website, app, marketplaces, and 10 plus offline stores. Today, Sold Store is one of the fastest growing and most profitable consumer brands in the country today. Thanks a lot, Vedang, for joining us, and I'm super excited to be doing this at no other place than the Sold Store office itself.
Yeah, Chirag, thanks for having me. Very excited to be here. At the Soul Store, we actually love Elevation Capital a lot. The amount of good publicity I've done about you and Deepak, not that you need it, is insane.
Awesome. No, thanks for those kind words. Before we begin, let me probably give a quick overview about the company for everyone's benefit. So, Soul Store was founded in 2013 out of sheer passion for pop culture that Vedang and the three other co-founders, Aditya, Rohin, Harsh, had. All four of them had been friends for a while and believed that India needed a dedicated destination for pop culture fans to purchase merchandise. Today, Sold Store is the undisputed leader in this segment, has 150 plus licenses across all the large franchises, including Marvel, Disney, WWE, multiple IPL teams, and so on. And over time, the company's ambition kept on growing. So they started building out their own range of casual wear products. This has now become 40% of the business. Customers absolutely loved that range, lapped it up because the Sold Store brought to the table their own unique design language and a culture of operational excellence, which just delivered the absolute right size, quality, fabric, and fit. Another interesting thing about the company is that the business was bootstrapped for the first 6 years. And it was only post 2019 when the Sold Store started expanding offline that they started raising capital to fund that growth. As things stand today, Sold Store is at an annualized net revenue run rate of 300 crore plus, is PAT profitable, and is among very few new age consumer brands to be at that milestone. Elevation and I partnered with the company in 2021 by leading a $10 million round. And it has been an extremely fun and fulfilling journey for us to see the Sold Store grow and thrive in an uncertain market environment over the last couple of years. Personally, I have learned a ton of stuff from Vedang, and hopefully in this podcast, we will be able to uncover some of those nuggets for the listeners.
Thanks, Chirag. I think that's an introduction. Even my mom would be proud. That's really kind of you. I don't think I can follow up such an introduction by saying anything more. But yeah, I would love to chat about this. Putting it out there that I think I've learned a lot more from you than you have from me, because you just have such a holistic view of the whole D2C space.
Awesome. I don't think so, but anyways, so we can kick it off with early journey, and it's hard to put 10 years into a few minutes or hours, but why, if you go back to day zero, I know you were personally a big pop culture fan, almost like a nerd, and the biggest proof for that is that even today when I search for your phone number on Truecaller, it says Clark Kent. So what was your thought process and like your shared thought process, all four of you, when you started the Sold Store?
Yeah, see, look, I think we're done raising money now, so I can be a little more candid. When I speak to a lot of founders, they actually have they are solving, in my head, very real problems that they've faced. For me, the initial trigger was that I just hated my job, yaar. And I've said this so many times, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but my aha moment was, it was a Sunday evening. And every Sunday evening, I used to just be like, yeah, tomorrow's Monday. And there are too many Mondays to go on hating. Right. And that's when I started thinking, okay, Vedang, what do you like? And it was a cusp for a middle class family. I'll tell you why. Because I just got double promoted to a post MBA job in under 2 years. I got admission into some of the IIMs. So to my mom, she was like, hey, Vedang, you're in a great place. But I truly hated it, and I could see post MBA what I was going to do. It was just what my boss does right now. And I was like, that's not for me. And then when I thought what's for me, it was pop culture. That was where it was easy.
Right.
And my co-founders also who worked at Tressvista,
Right.
I think equally or if not more disliked their time out there.
All four of you were at.
So three of us were there. Harsh has been my friend since 15. We met in college and I think both of us were just equally mischievous. And that's what got us together. And then when we thought about it, we all just love pop culture a lot. For me, specifically Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. My dog's name is Hobbit. So I genuinely, like, as you said, like, I really love it. Stories ke backstories. I used to spend a lot of time, just reading and consuming that. And then that's how I started looking at what the opportunity is and went down that road. And if you wanted to buy, let's say, a Star Wars t-shirt back in 2013, you had one of two options. One is you had to really go looking at these large format stores, and maybe a Shopper Stop or something of the sort would have, say, a Star Wars t-shirt, and it costed you like 2,000 rupees because it was made in India, Bangladesh, but imported back from the US. So a highly inefficient system. Or your option was a 200 rupee fake on Fashion Street. Now, if you take, which wasn't in good design or good quality, it was a mediocre product. So if you take these two options for the Indian consumer, 200 versus 2000, I think there was a clear need for,
Makes sense.
And then we had consumption of torrents.
Yeah.
Harry Potter came in like so many languages from India, they were dubbed. And then you knew that your Netflix, Amazon Prime, all of that took, pay. So what we were interested in was going to be relatable to a very large audience. So we were very excited about, seeing that, okay, India is going to start relating to this. There is a clear white space and a consumer need, because why would there be fakes otherwise?
Right.
And we started off very humbly, as you know, but I can speak about that.
Yeah. So this is super interesting, and like, if hating your job can lead to some journeys like this, clearly we are in for a very good time in India.
Yeah.
But like, just to put this in perspective, right? All of this is happening in 2013.
Yeah.
And I don't even, like, e-commerce would have been very early. Flipkart maybe would have just become a unicorn. I don't think D2C was even a buzzword back then. So did you also think of this with a very top-down lens, like pop culture and licensed merchandise? You can say it's a niche, when it's not evidently clear how large could it be. So was that even a part of your thought process? Did you have those questions for yourself, and how did you sort of reason it out?
Let me take the second part first, and then I can give you a little about starting back in 2013. I was 23, and I'm going to be very honest, I wasn't that smart only to do that top-down approach.
Okay.
But I don't know if I still am. But back then, what was very obvious is the fandom was there. Two, if you saw the US market, and again, these are just simple Googles, the merchandising industry out there was then at $150 billion.
Wow.
And if, you just exit any roller coaster in Six Flags or something. I hadn't, but I know of this. You just come out and there are like t-shirts of that roller coaster, and like you're entering a store. So I think with consumerism growing in India, that trend would happen. The ease of people shopping is going to increase. So we saw these a few indicators, and that was enough for us. Honestly, everyone starts with a plan, and you always start tweaking it and changing it as you go, even if you have a very solid top-down approach. Starting in 2013 was very different. Let me just, double click on how we started. I think you know a little about it, but maybe for everyone else. Each of us put in 1.7 lakhs or so into the business. We had about 5-6 lakhs. And that's all the money the founders have put till date.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And with that 5-6 lakhs back then, we thought it was a lot of capital. We in fact didn't touch the second half of it also. Like about 2-3 lakhs was never touched from that. We literally bought like this one cupboard of t-shirts. We got it printed. I'm not going to admit on camera as to us not realizing that licensing is a thing. But we just literally got printed with some witty lines and things like that. And we made a website back then for 25,000 rupees, which we thought was a lot of money because of the percentage of our investment. And we just launched, there was no waiting or anything. We're like, okay, we have some designs. We made that website in a month or two, launched. And I'll just digress into this thing. When you launch any business now, the first 1-2 weeks you feel really confident because you get a lot of what I call pity purchases.
Right.
Your friends, your family, and your family friends, and all will come and buy. I think it's actually when the 3rd, 4th week onwards that it gets a little hard, where you have to now start competing and convincing people. It was very hard back then. I think today, starting something is just plug and play. Courier companies are there. A payment gateway was EBS back then. It took us about a month and a half to actually get it live and about 500 signatures. Such was the process. Courier companies were also, the tracking systems and all manual, just like how you would send, say, a document from your personal side. There was no COD available, or I think only Amazon did COD for themselves, or Flipkart, the in-house logistics team did COD, otherwise COD wasn't available. So this was it was a little challenging. I remember initially, because we were so haphazard to start, we used to write the addresses with hand, then we used to just print it out on an Excel grid, and those used to be just stickers that we used to put on, and then the tracking IDs and all would come the next day from the courier company when they come to pick it up. So very different, but the customer expectation was also slightly different.
Right.
If you'd reached in 5-7 days, they were like, okay, wow, it's coming to my doorstep. So crazy journey, I would say.
Yeah, no, makes very interesting. And you mentioned, you realized after starting that licensing was a thing. So, would love to go level deeper there. Once you realized, what were the first few licenses you got? How did you pick them? And how does this industry really even work? How easy or difficult was it to get some of these licenses? Because these are fairly large established companies. So how do they trust, 4 young boys starting out in Bombay with their brand?
So they don't trust you. That's the short answer. I think about 1.5 years into our journey, finally Warner Brothers succumbed and gave us Friends and Big Bang Theory. Which, because back then it was Friends wasn't as popular, or they didn't think the merch had potential. And Big Bang Theory definitely wasn't as popular in India. So they were like, "Theek hai, jo mila wo sahi."
Yeah.
And the baggage of not being from the industry didn't tell us what the SOP of really going about this is. So when we got that Friends and Big Bang Theory, right, when you get any of these licenses, what they give you is like a style guide, which has like some set designs. And not just us, but around the world, what people did is, they took that style guide and did a simple Control-C, Control-V onto the product, making you this really disgusting human billboard, which a fan doesn't want to wear. But we didn't know that this is what people do. So when we got that, we were like, okay, these are good inspirations, but we think that a fan would want something different.
Right.
So we redesigned the whole gambit of it. And Warner Brothers was actually surprised but pleased that, wow, these guys are doing something different. Like, it's going to be different from what the rest of the world has. Not India, though nobody had it only. And then when we launched it, those designs obviously had better response from the Indian consumer. And we wanted to make sure that we are building a brand. I'm going to keep repeating this in our conversation.
Right.
Because as long as we build a brand, we can sell anything to the consumers. I will talk more maybe about this later on. With that thought process, because we didn't want this to be a transaction and we wanted to be the home of pop culture, if you bought, let's say, a Big Bang Theory product from us, you would get this, Sheldon's roommate agreement signed with a seal saying Chirag Chadda. It costed us 5-7 rupees, and we had the bandwidth to make it literally individual back then. And this is such a big experience for the fan.
Yeah.
You don't know you're getting this. You get this and you're like, wow. And people start framing it, sharing it on social media. And that's actually how it took off,
Interesting. Yeah. Well, focus on customer experience is, I think, the theme coming out of this, but we'll touch upon this as we go
Yeah,
along.
I think I'm going to just caveat it out and say focus on customer delight.
Delight, yeah.
Yeah, back then I think customer experience, it was very hard to compete with the Flipkarts and all, and trying, like, there, like, I used to answer customer calls for the first 2-3 years of the journey. And I'm pretty sure our experience wasn't to that level. But I think today, because of this whole plug and play nature, it gets you can be at par. Like your delivery timelines, etc., can literally be at par. Our category manager, who lives in Mumbai itself, said, I ordered day before night, it reached my house today. Sorry, the next day. So he came wearing it today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And like just on this licensing bit, so you mentioned, there is a fair bit of stuff, especially around design, that we control in this process.
Yeah.
And now that you've been doing it for years and years, like how many licenses do we have today? And are we trying to increase it, reduce it?
Yeah.
How do you prioritize? Have the tables turned in some way where people want to be on Sold Store? How does that play?
I think the tables have turned, and I'm going to be a little arrogant here. So before we had to literally beg.
Yeah.
But when the first license started with these two, Warner Brothers was, as I said, impressed. And then they were like, can you do the same with Harry Potter? And Harry Potter, you can actually do a lot for the fan. And we did. Right. And then the next one, then Disney caught on to us, so on and so forth, became a rolling ball. Our first IPL license took, I think, 2 years to crack. Right. It was into our 5th year or so. But we did the same thing. And within the next 2 years, we had 6 of the 8 IPL teams back then, and the other 2 was more because of a bandwidth issue, more than us saying, them saying, hey, we won't give it. It was more of us. And this is now, it's a circular reference. We get more licenses. Because we get more licenses, consumers keeps thinking of us as that one-stop destination for all things pop culture. Right. And because consumers think of us as that one-stop destination for all things pop culture, licensors want to come to us.
Also, like when you started out, was apparel a focus category? Or were there other things that we were doing? And how did you eventually zero on to apparel over a period of time?
So we never wanted to make the product a commodity. We were very sure of that. We don't want to be a marketplace where you can put any design. We didn't want to be a solution. We wanted to be a brand. Right. So that had to be led by design. So the initial thought process was whatever we can design on, we shall sell. So we started off with T-shirts as one of the 5-6 things. That was the only apparel we had. But then we had posters, badges, mugs, notebooks, anything you could just put your design on. However, what we realized is that the conversion on T-shirts, the demand for that is just disproportional. It was 90+% of our sales, and the rest just became into background. And then the effort to design anything is the same. Right. So then we put all our focus towards T-shirts, and then we started realizing that maybe this will go down the whole apparel route. So here is an example of you started off with an idea, but eventually you found your way and you segued to where the consumer wants.
Interesting. Was there also some elements of defensibility in this thought process? Because if you're doing designs on everything, maybe you are a printing company versus you touched upon, the ambition was to become a brand along the way. So were there some of those thoughts as well that pushed you towards apparel over a period of time?
I think, defensibility, these are typical questions a lot of VCs will ask. What is your moat? Right. And then the second question they will ask is, what if Reliance or someone does this? I think to the
I've also probably asked this in early days.
See, everyone asks these actually, but what if Reliance does it? I think unless you have some patent, Reliance can do anything. Or anyone can do anything. There's no stopping most people. It's a free market. On the defensibility, I would say the uniqueness of our designs back then. I remember there was one night where I literally sat and collated a week's worth of, I used to be the designer initially. It was a process of elimination, not like I'm a designer. Right. And I made some 60, 70 designs, and Aditya, Rohan, Harsh rejected all. So we were very picky, saying that, look, we need to have really good, unique, and the best designs. And the effort doesn't matter. This has to be the outcome. So we were very picky, and that is the uniqueness that we brought. Otherwise, you're commoditized. If you just paste what everyone else is doing. But today our design process is very data and tech heavy,
Right.
which is why I am in my full stride of actually managing designs, because I love, that's the part I understand, the data and the
Right.
numbers.
Right.
So literally every design that's launched, every designers will see every design along with the category managers who translate data for them. The revenue per view, the sales per day, the inventory, what it's going to be. And then they kind of and they compare this with, let's say if it's a black t-shirt, then they compare it with other black t-shirts. If it's a Batman t-shirts, other Batman t-shirts, other black t-shirts, and the overall t-shirt category. So what this builds, right, week on week, when you see this, it actually gives you an intelligence of, if I have to design a Batman t-shirt, or if I have to design a cartoon t-shirt, what kind of a color needs to be, how big the print, text heavy or graphic heavy. That intelligence it's actually getting stronger and stronger.
Right.
And that is what our moat today is. Actually, we know how to sell a product.
Correct. No, very interesting. I think, like, if I just abstract some of this out, you mentioned there is this core flywheel of, more licenses getting better customers, and then you become a destination which attracts more licenses, and then this data side of it is really the engine driving that flywheel in some way now.
Absolutely.
Keep hammering it out and it keeps getting better every day.
That actually makes us very like a democracy of sorts, because even today in a design, I cannot throw my weight.
Right.
Because it's the numbers, and it's quite funny, because if I say, okay, listen, I think that will do better on blue, the designers will come back, forget the category people, the designers will come back saying, no, this is what the data says, this, you know what, Vedang, sometimes they'll be like, we'll put it to vote on our internal team and we will prove you wrong.
Yeah.
But I love that.
Yeah.
I love that two things about this, that they will push back because they care about the bigger picture, and they will also design from a data oriented side.
Yeah. No, very interesting.
Yeah.
And like, for me, seeing you and bunch of people now at Soul Store operate over the years, it almost feels like all of this is an outcome of a very strong culture, and maybe bootstrapping and being frugal for the first few years have pushed you down this path. But
Yeah.
there is like, everyone at Soul Store enjoys the work they do. They are frugal in their thought process.
Yeah.
And also very data oriented. So how has this happened? And personally for you as sort of the CEO, the leader of this org, what are some things you do to make sure this culture stays the same? Otherwise, some of these things, run a strong risk of being lost as the org grows, number of people grow, revenues grow, and so on.
I want to firstly be very humble here and say that I have never, till recently, thought and broken down culture. Mm-hmm. A lot of it happens because of the environment that we are in, which is what it is.
Right.
What people also mistake with culture is the fact that they think culture is a lot to do with policies and offices and things like that. Like, oh, there's music playing in the background, great culture. I don't think any of that is. In fact, it's the frugality which has made our culture great, and I'll come to what I think is good culture. The fact that because you're frugal, everyone is aiming for success, and success being growing, not just growing the bottom line. So to grow the bottom line, you have to grow also the top line. And I think this one aim has been what extrapolates into retention, good quality, customer service, design success, and so on and so forth. And then they see the founders also keep harping on these metrics because, again, everyone knows that what success is at the Soul Store. On the fact that you said that people enjoy their job, that's why we started the company. And that, I think, organically has flown into the fact that it's important that you enjoy your Mondays.
Yeah.
And you will see that people do that. Our strength initially was, when designers and all were there, when we were a small company, why we did well is because we were selling fandom by fans. And if you are a fan of what you're doing, then you will just love it. So I think, like sports, let's take an IPL team, you may see this same impact there, where everyone loves cricket. Whether they do marketing for the team or they do ops for the team, they're all cricket fans. Same thing here. And then that pours down to the person who even packs the order.
Right.
You know, everyone was watching Marvel and things of that nature. So that happens, I don't think too much by design for us, but it's happened because we've always been sharp of what our intentions were.
Right. Perfect. Let's switch gears a bit. Maybe go to, how the business and the brand has evolved over a period of time. So maybe, if you could give a sense of where we are today, like what's the scale of the Soul Store, how many customers do we serve, what's our revenue, anything you want to share around, what TSS, how large TSS is today?
I think we have about 4 or 5 million registered users, close to that. Our net run rate would be at over 300 crores ARR. Our GMV would be over 400 CR.
Right.
But what I really like about us is, the buzzword started one day saying that D2C, but I think we genuinely are D2C.
Right.
More than 85% of our revenue comes from our own channels, and about 15% comes from Amazon, Myntra, and all of them combined. So we really control the whole life cycle of the consumer. And again, the reason for this is because we're here to create a brand, and not just make a transaction. So we want the consumer to purchase from us. We want the consumer to remember us. We were scared initially that if you started on, say, an Amazon or something like that, people would just be like, "Haan, maine ye Amazon ya Myntra se kharida hai."
Yeah.
But today, I think if someone buys from Amazon, they would still be like, "I bought a Soul Store product," and that's what we're very excited about. I don't even know what all numbers I should share.
This is directionally helpful. I think you mentioned 5 million registered users. So, if you could also articulate who is the user, like who is buying from Soul Store today.
Yeah.
Where I'm getting with this question is, therefore, how do you craft TSS as a brand? And I'm sure, it started out of sheer passion, but, as you did this journey over the last few years, you would have put in a lot more thought on what to communicate, how do we do it. So that's what I'm trying to get to. Who is our user and what does TSS as a brand mean for them?
I think the way we look at it is that our users 18 to 32 primarily.
Okay.
But everyone wants to be 25, 26. A 15-year-old wants to be 25, 26, and a 50-year-old wants to be 25, 26. So we cater to exactly that single guy or girl. The offline stores have taught me something new though. The reason we are very successful at our offline stores, and I think we are decently successful, is because every single person in the mall or who passes by on the street can buy from us. Whether you're a kid, whether you're a young adult, whether you're a parent, not just for yourself, but then also for your family.
Right.
And that's something we found very exciting because casual wear is just so easy to pick up. And I'm very confident because of data that when a person walks into our store, whoever they are, the design, the quality, and then the price point makes the product easy to pick up.
Right.
And we've seen that so now our thought process is kind of evolving, saying that, the target audience, although we will keep the branding at that youth, the target audience is actually wide.
Interesting.
And now we've gotten into kids,
Right.
from 2 to 14. So that's made it even wider.
Interesting. And then what does TSS brand mean today? Like, what is the brand's purpose? What does it really stand for?
So let me tell you what I firstly think internally about brand, and then maybe from the consumer side. So the way I try to break this down in my head is first, what is a brand? And for me, a brand is just simply the expectations a consumer has from a certain brand, company, website, label, whatever. It's expectations.
Right.
Now, what this means is that it has to be consistent. You have to be consistently good quality, good design, good service, so on and so forth. And this consistency should happen over time. I feel like if you do this too fast, then you're not a brand, you're a trend. And I get very scared of like these overnight growths because is someone just buying on a certain trend, or do they really value the brand? We have made sure that in our way that people come to us for the brand, and our the proof in the pudding is that the repeats are very high. Otherwise, I feel like you're a trend. People came, saw something, they liked it, bought it, but now you're no more relevant. So relevancy is important.
Right.
From the consumer side, the way the brand started is, okay, first there were very few internet companies. So, okay, this is an internet company selling quirky stuff. Then it started becoming, okay, all things pop culture is available at the Soul Store. So if you thought of Batman, Superman, the latest show, movie, whatever, Soul Store. And then I think now the consumer thinks of us as synonymous with just casual wear and lifestyle products. Like what I'm wearing, there's no print on it. It's just a good quality, good color product, which will fit the consumer really well.
Right.
And the fit isn't random. As you know, we put in a lot of data design. There's actually a team dedicated to this process, and that's why our returns are yet for an apparel company in single digits,
Right.
percentage-wise.
Right.
So I think the brand has evolved, and you have to keep evolving it. Key being consistency, relatability, and the lever there being time. Great brands have just been there for very long, and I keep trying to say this, and that's the reason I partner with the right investors also who understand this aspect. I'm giving you a compliment here, Chirag. So whether it's you guys, RPSG, and newly Exponentia, what I really like about it is you'll understand that brands take time. A lot of other investors say, you have to be the next Uniqlo, you have to be the next Zara, H&M, or Levi's also. You get compared to Levi's. Levi's is twice as old as this country.
Yeah.
So time is a very big dividend in brand building, and the consistency that you have to bring with that.
Makes sense. No, completely agree with you. I'll just pick on offline since you touched on it.
Yeah.
And offline has been a big part of TSS story in last 3 odd years. Actually, post COVID, it's been a big focus, and I love what we are doing offline. I think some of the metrics on footfall, conversion, throughput per store, sales per square feet, I think they are significantly better than even companies who have perfected offline over many, many, many years. What do you attribute that to? And a lot of D2C young founders building in the D2C space always have this question of, should I be doing offline? If yes, what is the right time? Will I be successful? So it would be good if you could abstract out some learnings on things that have worked well for us, which can then be inputs to a founder who's thinking about taking that journey.
So one thing I just want to firstly tell founders that are starting there, and this is my learning, don't just go after buzzwords and trends. D2C was a buzzword and everyone's like D2C, whether you are or you're not. And then omni-channel became a buzzword. People are like omni-channel. There is a right time for every business. This will be unique, but I'll tell you how we started and maybe people.
Yeah.
Our first store actually was a happy coincidence because Aditya, my co-founder, and I, we were like, we wanted to not spend all our marketing money on Facebook. And we thought, let's look at billboards in Bandra. That's what we thought would be our best location from a TG perspective. And billboards cost a few lakh rupees and rent cost a little more. So we are like, we'll just start a store. We'll have a permanent billboard. And we'll get customer feedback also. You'll have real customer interaction. So our thought process of starting the first store was actually that innocent. But when we started it, as I said, it became wildly successful because of how easy it is to buy the product we have and how relatable it is to a very wide audience.
Right.
We realized that it's not just a Harry Potter fan, it's anyone and everyone finding it cool. And then people of such wide varieties in socio-economic class, we are well priced, and in age group started entering the store, and our first store became profitable in the first month itself. All our stores have actually been profitable in the first month, besides the one we started in peak COVID. And we are very excited about, that journey. I'm going to be again arrogant once more and say, I don't know what store doesn't work. Because we've opened a 400 square feet store, we've opened a 5,000 square feet store, we've opened stores in metros like Mumbai, Bangalore, NCR, and we've opened a store in Indore and some coming out of Ahmedabad, and all of them have been profitable, not since the first month, but first day, the moment we open our shutters.
Right.
And we don't market the stores because the store is supposed to market the brand. So I think for us, this worked out, but don't go in hard with anything you do. What bootstrapping also worked for us is that we could try small and extrapolate big. So we actually took 6 months, even though we saw success in the first store, before we thought of opening a second store, we took 6 months to make sure this is consistent.
Yeah.
And then we went ahead and opened our store. Just summing this up, I think if the store channel is profitable, then you should definitely hit the pedal. Take your time for the learnings, absolutely. But as long as you have that, then the store opens up a lot more. It gives tangibility to an online presence, which usually D2C companies start online. It builds a lot of customer trust because of that. It gives you feedback, and it helps you build your brand like your online channel cannot.
Interesting. And would you say all of this is true even if you don't open your own stores, but you find some other way to sell offline? So in the apparel context, the only other relevant channel is probably large format retail, which could be any of the big box retailers, or in some categories it could also be general trade. What has been your framework there? Do you think if you're starting offline, all of these are pretty much the same, you should try it? Do you have a preference for one versus the other, and what are some of the reasons there?
So I think it's actually very simple in my head, the thought process. We always are thinking of building the larger brand.
Right.
Now, when you aren't the larger brand yet, okay, you're not like, as I said, Uniqlo, Levi's or something, and your product is in a LFS, large format store. Let's say you're at Shopper Stop. People wouldn't have heard of the Soul Store. Even if they buy the Soul Store because they like the design, they're not buying it for the brand. They bought it because the product's there and they like it. So the next time they want to buy something nice, they're going to go to Shopper Stop. They're not going to think of the Soul Store.
Right.
So for us, the thought process was, this first initial brand building has to be on the back of your own stores. And then we thought that, maybe we can, once the brand's created, you're more of a household name, we will start going into LFS. Because otherwise the product is commoditized and we don't want to become a commodity trader. We want to build a brand. We're very sure of that for multiple reasons, from gross margin to repeat rates to your CACs, etc., etc.
Very interesting. In some ways, the same learning as online, right? Start on your own website and then go to marketplaces.
Absolutely.
Same thing applies in offline.
But something, Chirag, that people here don't realize that this is a longer process. It's a more short process, but it's a far longer process because you have to be patient.
Right.
If you accelerate your growth online, for example, then you're just going to have unreal CACs and that consumer will never be able to pay you back for that CAC.
Right.
And I keep saying this, all you've done is just paid Facebook money versus running your own business.
Right.
So I think patience is always the key in brand building. Time is the dividend.
Perfect. So patience is a good segue to my next question, because I wanted to cover bootstrapping and fundraising.
Yeah.
So 6 years of bootstrap before raising any form of external capital. Was that a choice or was it forced by the market?
A bit of both. So it's very, look, for every founder, it's really sexy to put your name out saying, I raised this much money. But eventually, I think you have to have a successful business. Initially, so we were like, I'm just going to devalue what it was from other people's perspective, but you were a t-shirt company selling some quirky prints.
Right.
Now, which investor would invest in a t-shirt company with 4 founders, none of who have any pedigree in apparel, e-commerce, tech, nothing? So I get it, okay, and I won't invest in that company. There is no barrier to entry. There is no uniqueness at that time, or at least perceived uniqueness. So it was hard to raise money before. But once we had a successful business, and as I said, we were very profitable and capital business, we took that 5 lakh rupees in 2013. By 2018, we were a 30-40 crore business with just that 5 lakh. So, those multiples are like crypto level multiples. And then it was slightly easier because you had a proof of concept. Like you were doing something right. Maybe people couldn't figure out what. Maybe we didn't know what we were doing right, but something was right. And that's when it was easier for us to raise money, because unlike other marketplaces and online apparel who had to keep discounting to get consumers, what we were doing month on month is increasing our prices because we couldn't keep up with demand. Right. Now, this is a very nice place to like raise money. And the thought process then was, okay, you know what, maybe we should give this raising money another shot. We're in a good place, but we are losing out on too much opportunity, diluting. Maybe back then, I think we diluted 7-8%. That would give us the ability to grow a lot more. Right. So, but we were very sure on the kind of investor we wanted. Someone who understands that we are here to build a brand and we aren't here to just senselessly grow GMV and things of that nature. And that time, I think Abhishek from RPSG said all the right things to us, and we said to him, obviously. And that's why we went ahead. He wasn't the highest valuation. Even with you guys, I never chose the highest valuation, only the best partners. Right. And that's where we raised our first 10 CR. That gave us a lot of room to experiment. A lot of it didn't work, but you had some capital, so you could. And whatever worked, we had the capital to really extrapolate it and go hard with it. 10 CR we raised with the 30-40 CR business. We made it a 100 crore business. COVID hit in between. Yeah. And that's when we, I think you guys decided to invest in us as well. We took your money, we grew it now to where it is, and now we finally raised another round.
Yeah. No, it's been very interesting after that. Are you happier though after raising capital, or in hindsight, were you happier in the bootstrap phase?
Yeah, happiness is the bin always. It's okay. But I feel like for us it doesn't change because, as you know, we are not very flamboyant people in general. So money doesn't really change how fancy our office is or how we operate. Actually just gives us that firepower to do what you are doing. Right. So when people tell us like, wow, you've raised money, you are like, this is success, I'm like, no yaar. And this is the dumb example I give. I'm like, I have just gotten the cement to make the building that we want. You never congratulate anyone for acquiring the cement. Once we make that building, then tell me congratulations. Yeah,
that's a very interesting analogy. But and on those lines, like, do you feel like being bootstrapped in early days though has helped in some core fundamentals? Like, if you don't have a lot of cement, how do you build the building?
Yeah, Chirag, see, in hindsight bias, yes, it was really helpful to be bootstrapped because we made all our mistakes small, but it's never fun to not have money. You'd always rather have money. But that comes with its own baggage. I think when you raise capital, there's a lot of responsibility to people you've raised capital from. And because of that, you will eventually have to grow to a certain expectation. You'll have to, make certain expansion plans and you can't, I would say, and you can't take this as easy and learning process as what it is. It's just a duty to not just me to the investors to the LPs. So I think in hindsight, yes, but I would, if I had to do this again, I would raise money because now I'm a little too old and I don't have that patience to make that many mistakes. Some mistakes, but even today, we yet believe, and this is again the learnings we've had, you make a lot of small experiments, you fail in say 8 out of 10 things, and those 2 things you'll extrapolate big. And what the money does is lets you extrapolate big in those 2 things. I think the mistake people make is that they just go big with all 10. Right. And that discipline, I think, is sometimes what raising early breaks for you.
But can you give some examples on this? Like, if what were some mistakes we corrected early? Where could we have gone wrong?
So I think I'll give you an example today only, okay, with between us and a lot of D2C businesses. A lot of founders have a certain amount of CAC, which I can't digest. And I'm like, okay, wow, your CAC is 1,000 rupees. That means great, you must be having amazing repeats to justify it. But they don't. And the next month, they still have those high CACs. They're trying to match that same revenue. And you're on this treadmill, which is not making money only. There's no end to this. And because you have to keep growing, they keep spending and there is no end to this, cycle. However, the way we started, we knew that we wanted to make money on the first order itself. Right. If we don't make money on the first order today, my logic would be, can I make on the second, third, and is my repeat strong enough? Right. I think that's the biggest difference in the D2C business that I have seen that has helped us. Like, that's one example of what money, sometimes the discipline it breaks.
Makes sense. Cool. Yeah. I think this has been amazing, Vedang, and talking to you makes me feel that the opportunity for new age brands in India, whether it's online, offline, I think it's just tremendous.
Yeah.
SoulStore again has tremendous PMF today, and I can't wait to see what we will achieve in the coming years. Maybe the last question, just to end this, is where do you see SoulStore 5 to 10 years out? What are you sort of envisioning in the future for this?
I just want to first give a caveat saying that always have a 5-year plan, but be ready to change it every month. Right. Because you learn something new. I think for us, the market opportunity in the country we are in is just massive. If you take casualwear or apparel or anything, these are just very staggering numbers because you are in a very large country. We know that we want to create a product that's not just relatable to metros and tier 1 cities, but tier 2, tier 3. And our online data clearly shows that more than 50% of our revenue comes outside the top 10 cities. The product quality and the pricing have to be with this. So this is firstly the thumb rule for us. The second thing is, can we make this brand just about not apparel, but have we made it about trust, good quality products, great design? Then we can keep launching other categories. Like recently we launched sneakers, which have been a massive hit. We launched perfumes, which have also been good with our design sense on it. But because the brand is known not for apparel, but these other 3 core factors, we can keep launching more and more products, increasing the customer value to us. And then thirdly, I think the international opportunity is very much there. Right. It is almost personal ego and patriotism that one day an Indian brand should be sold across the world and not just the other way around. Right. And I like the fact that everything we do is relatable in Singapore, Europe, US, so on and so forth. So I'm very excited for actually the next step of things.
Yeah, no, this is inspiring. I am also excited to see TSS internationally. That would be fantastic. But cool, thank you so much for doing this, Vedang. It's been an absolute pleasure recording this episode and also working with you. And thank you so much for coming on the Summit Series podcast.
My pleasure, Chirag. Always great to chat with you.